Welcome back to the Chris Gates Fitness Podcast. Thank you, as always, for being here. I am very excited for today's episode because if you saw the title, something very, very exciting is happening today and this week. As of the moment this podcast has been published, applications are open for training camp. Okay, so you can go ahead and head over to my website. There is a link in the show notes to this episode where you can go to chrisgatesfitness.com and submit your application to sign up for training camp. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. If you've been hiding under a rock over the last month and you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's impressive because if you follow me anywhere, I've been talking about this a lot. And the reason I've been talking about it a lot is, obviously I want people to sign up, but the reason I want people to sign up is because I really think this is going to be a fun challenge and an awesome program. In previous podcast episodes, I have given a lot of details about training camp. What I'm going to do today is run through some of those details again, expand on some of the details that I have shared in previous weeks, and then also do a listener Q&A about training camp because, obviously when you share something like this on social media, basically every day for a month or more, and then when you talk about it on a podcast every week for a month or more, you get questions. People are interested in hey, what's going on? Can you tell me details about this, that, the other thing? Okay, I'm interested in signing up, but what about this aspect of it? So I've marked all of those down, and we're going to run through a bunch of listener questions to help you get a really good idea of what training camp is. And what training camp is at its core, it's a 90-day, 3-month fitness challenge, and I've designed it to be a challenge that is maybe the most personalized challenge that's ever been out there on the internet in the fitness industry. Because normally these challenges that different coaches or trainers or gyms or supplement companies or apparel companies run, they normally involve a lot of generic stuff, which is fine. Like most of those things that I just described are either people or companies that have very, very big platforms. And so they're trying to get as many people into the challenge as possible to make as much money as possible. But then when you have that many people in a challenge, it gets very hard to scale it in a way that is super personalized. You can't be checking in with 2,000 people on a weekly basis. I don't have that type of audience, and that doesn't really even appeal to me to do something like that. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I'm very much about programming and individualization in terms of both training and nutrition. So setting you up with something that is specific to you, tailored to you and your wants, needs, likes, dislikes, desires, goals, so that you can have the most efficient and effective plan moving forward. I don't see why you would do it any other way. If you go out on the internet and get a template, which is again normally these bigger challenges that are out there, you'll get a template for your workout program, and you're doing the same workouts that every other person is doing in that fitness challenge. Or from the nutritional standpoint, they're telling you hey, you can eat this, you can't eat that. You have to fast for this many hours a day. There are some ballpark guidelines or recommendations, but really at the end of the day, what you're looking at is you're doing, again, the same thing as somebody else. And do those recommendations or guidelines, do they fit your lifestyle? Do they agree with what you would find sustainable, find feasible, find to be effective? Who's to say? And I think, what normally is the case in those large challenges is you run into a situation where, some people see great success, other people see a little bit of success, and then there's a chunk of people who don't see any or end up quitting. And so at the, when you scale it back and say, okay, were there 1,000, 2,000 people in that challenge? What percentage of them actually achieved great success with what they wanted to do? It's probably a very small percentage. I don't want to run a challenge that big. Just being completely honest with you, I want to run a challenge for people like you listening to this podcast who You have trust. I would assume if you're here listening to the podcast, you trust me at least a little bit. And so I want to put that trust into practice and try to help you the best way that I can possibly can. And training camp is something that I've come up with. So it's, like I said, 90-day, which equates to 3-month challenge, where we're going to do it with the personalized approach. Everybody that signs up is going to get their own training program. You are not necessarily going to have the exact same program as anybody else in the challenge. You're going to get your own nutrition strategy. So we're going to go through a robust onboarding process where I get to learn a lot about you and all of those things I mentioned before, right? Likes, dislikes, wants, needs, desires, whatever the case may be, your health history, your training history, and try to set you up with the best possible starting point that we can. And it'll be specific to you because I want this to be something that you really benefit not only from now, but then also into the long term. And that's really what's at the core of this. It's a challenge, but the challenge here is not to make a bunch of progress really quickly and then go off on your own and, hey, good luck, try to figure out how to maintain it. Really what I want this to do is be an opportunity for you to experience what it's like to be on a program and be on a program that is tailored to you. And along the way, obviously I want you to make I want you to make progress over these 3 months. But I also want you to develop some of the habits that are going to help you continue this journey after the challenge is over and continue this journey to be able to maintain the progress that you make, and set even higher goals for yourself as you move into the future. And at the end of this, there will be opportunities for folks who have a really positive experience to continue with coaching as well. Like I want to make that opportunity available to everybody that signs up. It's like, hey, if you have a really good time in these 3 months and you find that like this has been beneficial, you like having me help take the guesswork out of things for you, hold you accountable, give you the guidance and support that you need along the way, well, you might also really enjoy moving into one-on-one online coaching, which is a more in-depth process, even more personalized than what we'll do here in training camp. And I want to offer people that opportunity to keep things going. But at the very least, I want you to be able to make progress and then learn some things, develop some habits that are going to help you maintain and sustain that progress long term. So I'm calling it training camp because I mean, again, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know this about me. I am a big sports fan. I am a huge football fan. And this is the time of year where if you're a football fan, and even if you're not, like you probably understand this concept. For any sport, when you're going into a season, the season before it starts, the players report to something called training camp. And what they do is they gather together as a team after an off season where everybody has gone their separate ways. They gather together in one location for training camp where, number one, trying to get back in shape for the season, and get prepared for that season to come where, you may be putting in game plans for, if it's we want to carry this football metaphor forward here since this is the time where it's football training camp. These teams are getting together to put game plans in place for every week of the season. They know, okay, we got a game every Saturday or every Sunday, so we need to not only get in shape, but also put some strategies in place and understand, hey, over the next few months of this season, what's coming up? What's ahead on the calendar? What's ahead on the schedule? How do we need to game plan and strategize and change our strategies week to week to make sure that we can be successful and win these games? You and I are essentially going to do that exact same thing, which is a really important aspect of all of this. It's something that I say to any one of my one-on-one online fitness coaching clients. When we get started, I say, like, every week we're going to check in, and we're going to do this because this is what most people don't do. Most people do not look at what they're doing with their program and analyze the training side of things, the nutrition side of things, the progress to date, how all of this is fitting into your daily and weekly routine, and like critically analyze it and take a step back, zoom out and think like, what's working? What's not working? Do I need to make any types of adjustments to make sure that I continue to be successful moving forward? People just don't ask hard questions of themselves. And so one of the things that I think that I, provide for my clients is being that person to make sure that we are, reflecting on these things and paying attention to the details that matter and putting strategies in place to make sure each week is a success. And just like with these football teams I mentioned, every week's different. Well, for you, every week is different. You got different things going on in your life. It's not just like Monday through Friday, the same work routine, Saturday and Sunday, the same weekend routine, and it repeats over and over and over again. That's never the way that it works. You may have kids at home. You could be in school. Your kids could be in school or getting ready to go back to school. And then activities pick up all over the place. Obviously, football season or the fall in general, lots of sports pick up, lots of family and friend gatherings happen, tailgates, watch parties. Then the holiday season comes after that. Like there's just so many things that happen in your regular daily life that you can't take the same exact plan and approach into every single week and expect it to work. That's just not the way life works. And again, that's why so many people, I think, struggle with reaching a health or fitness goal. And it's because you don't take that time, and it doesn't take a lot of time, but you don't take that time every week to just take a step back, critically analyze things. How are things going? And what strategies do we need to put in place on a week-to-week basis to essentially put a game plan in place to be successful? And again, we'll tie it back to that football metaphor. That's what these football teams do. And I thought, it's kind of a cool idea to maybe apply that to the general population, you, me, and everybody else, and really, though, like truly apply it and say, okay, this is something that, the best athletes in the world do, but like we should be doing that for ourselves. We should be gathering together and providing that type of game plan on a week-to-week basis to make sure that you can experience the progress that you want. So that's where training camp comes from. That's the general overview of what training camp is and what it'll look like and some of the details involved with it. But let's dive deeper into some of the details of the program, because I want to talk about okay, why would you sign up for training camp? What are some of the features of it? What have people who have done this with me in the past, what has that looked like before? And then obviously talk about, some of the questions that people have asked along the way. So let's get into those details. And why would you consider training camp? Why should you sign up for it? The answer to that question is, I think, a lot of details that I kind of ran through in part in just that first part of this podcast episode in describing what training camp is. But I think for most of us, we're getting ready for the busiest time of year. It may not seem like it now because it's August, but we're not that far from September and fall and all of the things that happen with fall being right in front of us. And those things that I mentioned, like kids going back to school, activities picking up, all of the different happenings that occur during the fall months. The holiday season comes after that, and you may have vacations or road trips planned, whatever the case may be. It's a difficult stretch of time to manage. And really, as we get into fall, this is the most difficult stretch of time of the year. And it's where most people see their progress or see their adherence or consistency with training and nutrition fall off. And we kind of get into this mindset of okay, well, things are getting really busy. I'm just going to put it off until next year, the first of the year, when, all of the crazy busyness is over. And I totally get that rationale. I get why people think that way, but it's definitely not the most effective approach, because we see it every year. A lot of people end up gaining weight over the last quarter of the year. And it's hard to then get that weight off, because you think at the beginning of the year, everything will be lined up and I'll be able to approach this. Everybody then sets a New Year's resolution, and people are normally really consistent with the New Year's resolution for the month of January. But as we get into the middle of February, it's okay, it's getting harder to be consistent. We get into March, spring arrives, the weather starts to warm up, and then nobody wants to be consistent with this stuff anymore. And that's why if you have a gym membership, you've probably seen this at the gym where it's packed in January and February, and then in March it starts to get less packed, and then by April it's like back to the way it was all year long. So we're getting into that stretch of time that's unbelievably challenging, which is an opportunity for you to not let it derail what you want to achieve this time around. And perhaps if this time of year has been a struggle for you previously, perhaps getting a little bit of help this time around could be something that benefits you. And that's exactly what training camp is designed to do. We're going to put those game plans and strategies into place each week. And like when I say that, I want to be clear. Let's say your goal is weight loss, and we're trying to do that obviously over the course of the challenge. But if we find, like, here's an example of how we may make adjustments or strategies or game plans, putting them into place for you. Let's say you want to lose weight, you want to lose body fat, but we have a week where maybe you're traveling for work, or you have like 2 birthday parties, or I don't know, it could be anything that comes up during the week, and you see it as a really, really challenging week from a nutritional perspective, to be able to be in a calorie deficit and do all of the things that you need to do in order to continue pursuing the goal that you have. Something we might do is look at that week and maybe do something like calorie cycling, where we build in higher calorie days for you during that week to allow you the flexibility you need and want to enjoy those events. But at the end of the week, still be tracking in line with where we should be going, still being in a calorie deficit for the week. Or we could even look at that week and just say, like, what's the hurt in going up to maintenance for an entire week? So you have flexibility for that entire week. It's still structured. We're not, just going balls to the wall and saying screw it and eating everything in sight. We still have structure, but we have structure in a flexible way that allows you to get through that busy week with whatever you have going on. And then when the next week rolls around, if that week is much more controlled and we're able to get back down into a calorie deficit and get back to, the regularly scheduled programming, then that's what we do. So, it's really helpful to have, I think, like an objective third party help point you in the right direction with a lot of these things. And that's what I'm going to be here to do for you in training camp. Because again, you're not getting a template. I'm not giving you a template that says, like, do these workouts every week. That's not helpful for you. It's not helpful at all. It's helpful to have somebody give you a training program, or give you a nutritional strategy and have it be, malleable, have it be fluid, have it be flexible, so that we can have a core set of things we want to achieve every week, but there can be ways that we tweak it based on what you have going on. All right. So those are a lot of reasons why you might, benefit from training camp, why it might be something for you to sign up for and get that type of guidance and support so that you can make progress. And so I think a logical place to go next then is to talk about, okay, what are the features of training camp? How does this program actually interact with you? How will I interact with you, and how will we navigate this entire thing together? So in terms of the features of training camp, first and foremost, mentioned this before, if you sign up, we're going to go through a very robust onboarding process where we dive into your background with all this stuff and make sure that I have a good understanding of what would allow us to set up a starting point for you. And so we'll go through, I have a questionnaire that we'll go through that really dives in deep to your health history, training history, preferences, likes, dislikes, all that good stuff. And then we'll set up the best possible starting point that we can for you for both training and nutrition. But then we're going to monitor it every single step of the way. And one of the ways that we do that is we're going to have weekly check-ins every week. So every Sunday, I'm going to send out a weekly check-in email that's going to outline a bunch of those really important items for us to reflect on. So I mentioned that before, right? We want to make sure we're critically analyzing how things are going and just taking a little bit of time. Again, doesn't have to be a lot of time, but a little bit of time every week to zoom out and just think critically about how the program is working for you. So we'll do that every single week. Again, I'll send that email out to you on Sunday. And then we'll go back and forth via email as much as we need to make sure that you feel confident, that you have your questions answered, and that we cover all ground that we need to in order to, make tweaks or adjustments if we need to. But if anything, set you up for success for the week to come. Now on top, so that's an area where we're going to have a lot of back and forth. We're going to exchange a lot of information and knowledge. And on that topic of knowledge, I obviously want this to be something that's beneficial for you. So you're going to get access to my full client portal of videos. These are different deep dives into training and nutrition. I have modules on a bunch of different topics that you're going to get access to. So along the way, while we're working on your program, you're also going to be able to watch these video modules to learn about how to manage this stuff for yourself. So we'll talk about your nutrition strategy, why it's important to track nutrition, why protein is important, how to build a strength training program, what you need to know about macronutrients, and what you need to know about program design. You're going to get all of this information delivered to you in a week to week. You're going to get a new module, and it's going to help you build your own knowledge base, which I think is really going to be beneficial for you. Monthly challenges. If you've heard me talk about this 90-day challenge, this 3-month challenge, you've also mentioned that you heard me mention that within this challenge, there are challenges. So every month we're going to have a challenge that is geared towards that core concept of helping you develop and build these habits that are going to help you maintain this stuff long term. So there's going to be a new monthly challenge every month where I'll send out a video to you explaining what the challenge is and how we'll track it along the way, and what the prize is going to be at the end of it. There will be a prize winner at the end of each month based on how you do in the challenge and what you learn from the challenge. So I think that's going to be really a lot of fun. Some of those prizes are going to be new home gym equipment. I have from my supplement sponsor Legion, I have some free supplements to give away as well. So it's gonna be a good time, and I'm really excited for the challenges because I think it's one of the very unique aspects of this program that you're gonna be able to participate in and benefit from. And then again, I mentioned this before. At the end of training camp, if you are interested in wanting to continue, there will be the opportunity for a select number of people to move into my one-on-one online fitness coaching program, which again, I mentioned this before, is just an even more in-depth, more personalized experience where you get to take your program and everything that we're doing in training camp up to the next level. So those are some of the features of training camp, and actually one that I want to make sure I don't leave this out. We're also going to be doing private Q&As throughout the 90 days of this challenge. So throughout training camp, as I get questions from you and other participants, we will be doing private Q&As along the way so that you get your questions answered, but then not just that. In addition to having your questions answered, I'll also be answering other people's questions, and you'll get to hear those questions and answers, which will, again, further your knowledge in terms of how training and nutrition and all this stuff is supposed to operate. And I really like that. I got participated in some challenges before, and I'm even in some professional groups in terms of personal training and stuff like that, where I'll sit in on Q&As where I hear other people's questions and I'm like, oh, I never thought about that, but I'm curious about that too. And then I hear the answer and I'm like, well, that's awesome. I sat in on this Q&A. I didn't have a question, but I heard 10 other questions get answered, and they were all really interesting things that I now feel like I'm smarter for having heard the questions and answers. So I think that's going to be a really nice piece to the puzzle as well. All right, so let's talk about people who participated in this last year. Now, last year, I did something like training camp. It wasn't exactly what we're doing this year, but it was very similar. And it kind of inspired me to want to make this a more formal program and a more formal challenge this year. So last year was awesome. Had a ton of people sign up for training camp, and it seemed to be a really beneficial experience across the board. I think it was, training camp participants last year ended up losing more than 120 pounds combined. And that's pretty cool. 120 pounds plus of body fat lost is awesome. But I think what's even cooler about that is the number 34. Participants lost a combined 34 inches across their waistline, which is massive. That is a massive amount of body fat gone. And it's funny when you talk about hey, we lost over 120 pounds of body fat. It's actually very hard to quantify that because the people who participated last year also added hundreds of pounds to their strength training exercises. So like squatting, benching, rowing, the compound exercises, even the isolation stuff. People got stronger across the board. So when you're getting stronger, you're building muscle. And if you've heard me on this podcast talk about this at all, which I'm sure you probably have at least a little bit, the scale can be a funny thing to use as a measure of progress because you could be building muscle while burning fat. And so the amount of weight that you lose on the scale doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how much body fat you lost. You could have lost a bunch of body fat. Like let's say the scale went down 10 pounds. Well, you could have maybe lost 15 or 20 pounds of body fat, but you also added pounds of muscle, so it's interesting to like try and parse these numbers out. They're impressive nonetheless, but it actually was probably far more than 120 pounds of body fat because of how strong people got. And I think that waistline number is indicative of that. 34 inches. That's like the entire waistline of one person. Like that's crazy. So it's really, really cool. And a handful of people who signed up last year have continued with one-on-one online fitness coaching with me. And we're still working together today because they've seen a lot of progress. They really enjoy the process. So it's been a lot of fun. So I think that's a pretty good overview of what training camp is, how it's going to operate, what you could expect if you signed up, and some of the experiences of people who participated in it last year. So with that said, let's finish things up here by diving into a little bit of a Q&A. I have 6 questions that I want to run through because I thought there were 6 that are, maybe applicable to a lot of people, maybe something that's on your mind. So let's dive into these 6 questions. All right, question number 1 is, if I like my training program currently, can I still sign up? So essentially like, hey, if I want to keep training the way that I like to train, is that okay? Can I still participate in it? And my answer to this person was emphatically yes. To go back to what I said at the beginning of this episode where like, hey, I want this to be personalized to you. If you're signing up with me, this is another reason why it's great to not just be fed a template. If you're signing up to me and with me for training camp, and there are aspects of your routine right now that you really enjoy and you find a lot of benefit from them, why would I tell you to change that? And if you're given a template, you're just forced to change it because it's not in the template, so you can't do it. If you enjoy your training program right now, or if there are aspects of your diet that you really enjoy and find it to be really effective, we're going to take those, we're going to bring them with us into training camp, and then we're going to adjust some other details and variables and try to continue pushing you in the right direction. Okay, so you absolutely can still sign up if there's things that you're doing right now that you want to continue doing. We'll find ways to keep those incorporated in your routine, like I said, while managing and tweaking some of those other variables. All right, I had somebody ask me, what are the challenges each month? Which is a great question. I haven't gone super in depth into the specific challenges, but we're going to have 3 challenges, 1 a month, and they are as follows. The first challenge is going to be a consistency challenge, okay? Because when you get started with a new program, I think it can be tricky to try and like tackle all of the details and variables all at once, when really the most impactful thing you can do at the beginning of your program is just be consistent with it and just try. And like, even if you don't nail your nutrition, or even if you don't hit every single workout, can you be as consistent as possible? Can you be at least 80% consistent with things and do your best to try to incorporate these new things into your daily routine? It's a tall task at the beginning of any program. That's a tall task because I'm going to be giving you things that potentially you've never done before. And it's not easy. It's not seamless for anybody to just bring all of that into your routine when you got so many other things going on in your life. So challenge number 1 is going to be a consistency challenge to see who can be the most consistent and who can find creative ways to be consistent with a lot of these new habits that we're trying to implement. Challenge number 2 is going to be a step count challenge. One of the most beneficial things that I have found, both for myself, people I work with, in terms of managing body composition long-term and promoting better overall health and longevity, is daily steps. And the reason for that is when you have a step count goal, you are inherently going to be pushed. You'll be pushing yourself, or in this case, in training camp, I will be pushing you to move more frequently throughout the day, every day. And there is no downside to that, okay? Unless you're going like 30,000 steps a day. And there will be some tiers here for the step count challenge where I say like, okay, I don't want you just running your body into the ground. But step count goals are unbelievably beneficial for maintaining your body composition, improving your body composition, and improving your overall health. And there's actually quite a bit of research that shows the more steps you take, to a certain degree, the more steps you take on a daily basis, the better your overall longevity and health improves. So it's kind of like a linear thing where as steps go up, your health goes up. The health benefits of it go up. So that's a really, really important habit to build into your daily lifestyle, and it's going to make any progress that we make together in training camp be that much easier to maintain because you'll be doing things to work on your overall health, and that will help you manage your body composition. So challenge number 2 is going to be a step count challenge, and challenge number 3 is going to be a protein challenge. Protein, again, is so unbelievably beneficial for managing your body composition. It's so beneficial for your overall health. Most people just don't eat enough protein on a regular basis. So I think ending things with protein, challenge number 3, month number 3, ending things with that challenge is going to benefit you because it's going to make sure that you're eating enough protein. It's going to make sure that we're pushing you to probably eat a little bit more and get closer to whatever quote unquote optimal would be for you. If you're eating more protein while you're training, it's going to help you build muscle. It's going to do a lot of things that are beneficial for your overall health and longevity. And again, at the end of this challenge, if you get to a point where you're able to eat more protein on a consistent basis, that's going to benefit you so much down the road for so many reasons that we've talked about ad nauseum on the podcast in the past, but like increased fullness, increased muscle mass, which is going to help boost your metabolism, that strength and mobility that you can develop from recovering and building muscle is going to help you train even harder. Like there's just a trickle down effect from eating more protein on a consistent basis. So that seemed like a really good one to wrap things up with in month 3. So those are the 3 challenges, and I'm unbelievably excited for each one of them. And like I said, during training camp, I will send out a video for when the challenge is about to start, outlining the details on how we'll monitor, how we'll track things. There's also at the end of each challenge going to be a survey that I send out because challenge winners are going to be selected it's going to be selected by me based on a number of criteria, one of which is going to be like your success with it. So, how did you do with your step counts? How did you do with your protein? But then also, what did you learn from this experience? Because I don't want it to just be the person that did the best. I want it to be the person that did great and also learned and adapted and evolved because of this challenge so that, we're able to see like this was something that actually positively impacted your life. So it's going to be based on a number of different criteria, and that'll be sent out after the challenge ends. But I'm really excited for these challenges. I think it's going to be a good time. All right, question number 3 was quite simply like, what type of support am I going to get throughout this? And I think this came from somebody who maybe has participated in a challenge before that's a bit more generic. Maybe one of those ones where they were just fed a template and said, okay, sayonara, enjoy, good luck. But I kind of outlined this in talking about training camp. You're going to get a ton of support. Okay. It's going to be probably more support than you'll get in any fitness challenge that you've ever found. We're going to have weekly check-ins. I mentioned that one before. So I'm going to send those out every single week where we dive into the details of things. We'll have the private Q&As that I mentioned where you're going to get your questions answered in addition to hearing everybody else's questions and answers. And you also have the ability to email me at any time. So, you're not just restricted to our check-in email once a week. If you have a question along the way, feel free to send it over to me and I'll outline how we will communicate when you sign up, and through the onboarding process. I'll outline how we can and will communicate and where you can reach me and all that good stuff. But you have the ability to email me at any time. So I want you to get as much support as I can possibly provide to you. So those are the 3 main ways that you'll get support. And I'm here to answer your questions and help you make the right changes and really take the guesswork out of things so that you can just focus on showing up and putting in the work. And I'll take all the questions and feedback and results and try to set you up for success, as best as we possibly can. Question number 4, what happens after the 90 days? I mentioned this before. After the 90 days, you will have the option to continue with one-on-one coaching if you enjoy it. And if not, my hope is for you that you really develop a lot of knowledge along the way while we're working together so that you're able to manage this stuff for yourself. So you have the option of taking it off on your own and managing these things. You're always going to have access to the video modules. So they are private video links, but those links are never going to change. So you will always be able to go back and look at the video modules to refresh yourself on a topic or reference it as you're building out your program moving forward. You'll also have the ability to download your program and all the things that we worked on, so you can take that with you and reference that as you move forward. And we're going to do a lot of documentation along the way on you, so we'll essentially build up a big bucket of data on you, and that's going to help us and help you as you move forward to say, like, okay, well, here's what I did, here's how it worked out. So if you pair that with what you learn along the way, it should hopefully be a lot easier for you to figure out, okay, this went that way, so I'm going to do it this way moving forward. So those are the two options, right? I mean, after 90 days, the challenge is over. You can take it on your own, or if you want to continue to get support, you can move into my one-on-one online fitness coaching program. Question number 5, does it matter what goal I have? Is this only for weight loss? And the answer is no. It doesn't matter what goal you have. This is not a weight loss challenge. This is not a weight race. I know most challenges are kind of based on that, like, hey, lose as much weight as you possibly can in a short period of time. I'm not a big fan of that approach. And this is not specifically about weight loss. If you have a weight loss goal, absolutely, let's get together and figure out a way to help you lose weight sustainably. But if you want to build muscle, if you want to get stronger, if you want to just do what the goal is of building healthy habits, all of those are on the table, because again, we're going to be doing things in a personalized manner. So I'm not throwing templates at you. We're not doing like a elimination diet or a fad diet. We're going to set things up based on whatever you say is your primary goal, and then we're going to work together to try and achieve that. So it's goal agnostic, I guess is the way to put it. All fitness goals are welcome in training camp, and I'm going to do my best to help you get there. All right, question number 6. I guess I actually answered this one along the way. Question number 6 was, how will you select the prize winners each month? And I mentioned that before. From the challenges, there will be prize winners, and what we'll do is evaluate both your success in the challenge as well as your survey responses to, different questions about what you did along the way to attack the challenge, and really what you learned from the challenge along the way. Because that's a really important piece to me, as I talk so much in this podcast episode about, the purpose of training camp and how I want you to use this to kind of like launch you into the future in a positive way. I'm really going to be looking for those folks who have a transformative experience in the challenges. Okay. So, you could log 15,000 steps a day every single day during the step count challenge. But then if at the end of the day, it comes down to like, well, what did you learn from this? And you're like, well, no, I am not much. I always walk a lot. You're probably not going to be a challenge winner then. Okay. I'm looking for people who really, kind of step outside their comfort zone a little bit and have to get creative and find ways to adapt and adopt new habits that are going to benefit their health long term. So that's how we select prize winners each month. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. I appreciate you listening. If you're still hanging on, that means you're probably pretty interested in training camp. So what I want to make sure you do is go into the show notes of this episode, go to that coaching application form link, submit your application, and I will follow up with you. We'll talk more about your goals and about what training camp is like and how we might get you signed up. Okay, but I appreciate you listening this long. I am super, super excited for the fact that training camp is open and we're rocking and rolling here and getting people signed up and getting ready for a really fun program and something that I think is going to benefit you a lot now and hopefully will benefit you a lot into the future as well. So looking forward to getting started. I really, really do appreciate you listening. And, if you've listened this far and you're not going to sign up, that's all good too. I appreciate your support. And as we move forward here, we'll get back to a bit more of the regularly scheduled programming on the podcast where I guess I'm not plugging something as much. So that'll be good. But I try to not have ads on the podcast. I have had people reach out trying to buy space on the podcast. I try to just, if there's going to be an ad, it's going to be about something I do because I don't know, it's my podcast. But I appreciate you listening. I'm looking forward to getting started with training camp. And I'll see you there. Talk to you soon.